Okay, so today's job, I'm basically bored of using these. Quite often people find me and they ask me to give them a jump start. I don't know if it's the big van or what, but every time I have to clip onto my battery, clip onto their battery, and to be honest, it's a bit of a pain. So what I've done, I've made up some special jump leads that are detachable. So these have an Anderson connector on, which now gives me some short leads with a connector and some longer leads with a connector. So what I want to be able to do is plug this into the van, and then I can just clip this onto their car and I won't have to open the bonnet or anything like that. Happy days. So to do that, I've already done this side. I'm afraid I can't show you that. On the van side, I've got one of these connectors to go on, and I've got a little housing for it as well. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. My plan is to stick it here. I've already just about marked it out. And on the inside, the wires are going to come up. I'm going to have a contactor here. So that will only be connected when I press a button inside. That will go into the main fuse box, which I've fitted recently. So when I press the button on the inside, that will connect this to the battery, which will in turn connect that. So I can give other people a jump start, or I can get a jump start myself if I ever need it. Not that I will, because I've got solar panels which keep both batteries topped up. So the first thing I need to do is to decide where this is going to go. Now I've had a look on the inside and there's actually not as much space as you'd think. The battery sits here, so there's not enough space behind, and on this side there's all loads of other bits of metal and stuff, so it can't go there. So really this is the only place for it to go. So what I've done, I've put it roughly where I want it to be, and I've traced around the outside and the inside, and I'm just going to put the screw holes on there as well. What I'm going to do, I'll just put a mark there, mark there, mark there, mark here, here and here. So now if I go between these markings, this should be where I need to cut to. So annoyingly, the tolerances on the bottom of this are very, very fine, which I'm not super happy about, but it is what it is. So what I'll do, I'll cut it smaller first, and then I'll make it bigger if I have to. So I'm going to drill a hole in each corner, but a little bit in, because remember I'm going to drill it too big first. So I'm now going to get a file and do the rest of it manually because I want it to be perfect. Perfect, so that fits. I now just need to protect the metal around there and then screw it in. Happy days. So I've protected the bare metal with some hammerite paint. That'll stop it from rusting. I now need to wait for it to dry. So whilst it does that, I'm going to focus on fitting the contactor, which is going to go there. And I'm also going to fit the engage switch, which I'm thinking about putting there, but it might not actually fit there, so I might have to stick it there. Here's the contactor, and this is where I want it to go. Now, I'm just a bit concerned about the hinge for the bonnet. So I've just cable tied it here in place for now, and what I'm going to try and do is close the hood and just make sure that that clears that. I think it will, but I just want to check. That does miss it, which is good. I'll just have to keep in mind when I connect to these terminals, I'll have to have the wires coming outwards, because if they go that way, I think it will be a bit tight. So now I'll focus on mounting this properly and go from there. This contactor is basically an electronic switch. We give a small amount of power here, that's called the coil, and inside here it moves a big switch which can take a lot of current. One side of this switch is going to go to the Anderson connector, the other side of the switch is going to go to the main fuse box, The ground of here is going to go to the ground of the Anderson, just because it can take any ground, so that makes sense. And the positive is going to go to a switch on the dashboard, so that'll only be active when I say so. This is the switch I've got. You can see it rests in the off stage, and it has on depending when you click it. So I'm going to have one setting will be turn the contactor on from this battery if I'm starting someone else, and that will turn the contactor on from the other battery if they're starting me. I've not filmed much of this process, but I've just crimped the positive pole for the Anderson. I'm just getting ready to put that in. I'll explain all the wiring in a bit. So that's all wired up. I've not tidied the wires yet because I want to make sure it works. The ground I've just put to the chassis ground for now. That's fine. There's no main battery, but there's power coming from the back, so hopefully if I press down on this, there we go. So we hear the contactor engage, and also you can just about see the light comes on to let us know it's engaged as well. Now if I press the top one, nothing happens because the top one will turn the contactor on from this. So if I was to connect some jump leads to that battery and then press the top, then it should work. Okay, so that's plugged in. So now they both work. So that gives me options. If my battery was ever totally flat, that means that I can power the contactor from the jump leads. So if someone's giving me a jump, I'm good, and if I'm giving someone else a jump, I'm also good.